we've also got to know that you used to share your classroom with Aamir Khan. So just as an interesting fact, what are some of the learnings which you learned from him as a person, and how was your overall experience? And if I want to become the next Mr. Nirmal Jain, what is that one piece of advice you would like to give it to me?
You can become much better and much bigger also.
One thing that no one knows about you. Hello everyone, welcome to the series Conversation with Kushal once again. Today we have with us the man who is chairman of one of the biggest financial conglomerates of India, the man who secured All India Rank 2 in his CA inters as well as CA finals, and the man who used to share his classroom with none other than Aamir Khan. Well, he is one of the most grounded and humble human beings, and as an interesting anecdote, he also used to operate the PageMaker software which is used to produce graphic designing layouts. And as an interesting fact, his co-founder states that he was even better than a professional. So let's introduce our guest through some witty rhymes. So he's a born prodigy and has an extraordinary brain. He's a stock market expert and has made tons of gain. He goes to vacation every year and this year might go to Spain. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome one and only Mr. Nirmal Jain. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting my invitation. It's an absolute sense of honor for me to have you on the show today.
Thank you. I think you're a good poet also, very good. And maybe you've done a lot of homework. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir.
Nice, pleasure to meet you.
Likewise, sir. Absolutely. Sir, so before you enter your CA journey, what my sense is that like every person has to go through his childhood, and that plays an important role in his career ahead. So what role your childhood played, and what are some of the learnings which you have imbibed from your parents which are helping you build this huge empire of IIFl?
I'm born and brought up in a Marwadi business family. And so my father has been a small businessman. And I've seen him struggle. And in the Marwadi family, I think one thing culturally people learn is that if you love your work, you don't have to work a day in your life. So, it's never 9 to 5, it's never Monday to Friday. And so work is an integral part of family life as well. You don't really look at work as something that has to be done. And people talk about work-life balance, and I think there's a wonderful balance because work is life and life is work. And I've seen him that through the struggle of the business, when the businesses pass through cycles, the honesty, integrity is very important, hard work is very important, humility is very important. So these are the values that I saw in my family, and I think they basically shape you. And as we grew up, we all brothers, we had 3 brothers and 1 sister. We would help, father in business, and and even my mother was like, whatever is required. So for a business family, every member of the family doesn't look at the divide between the work and life, but they look them as integral part. And I think that was a wonderful experience to learn.
Right, absolutely. That's very well said. And even before starting your CA journey, we've also got to know that you used to share your classroom with Aamir Khan. So just as an interesting fact, what are some of the learnings which you learned from him as a person, and how was your overall experience? Like, did you end up teaching?
So I think Aamir Khan was the same class in NM college initially for 2 years, and then I think he got a movie break and he moved away. So it's nothing, with hindsight, that he was, he became a superstar, but there's nothing I can't remember anything to learn from or learn, he just happened to be in the same class in NM college, so that's about it.
Got it. And in your CA journey, like since you scored All India Rank 2 in your CA inter as well as CA finals, I'm sure it's like it takes huge amount of effort in order to get a rank, because people struggle to clear their CA exams as well, and I've gone through the same struggle in terms of studying for the entire 12 hours a day for 4.5 months long. So how was your entire CA journey like, and what are some of the challenges which you would have faced in those 5-year span of journey which you think were very challenging, but still you overcame and like secured All India Rank 2?
So I did my CA along with BCom, and actually I was also doing ICW along with the CA and BCom. I think at that age your mental faculties are at its peak. I was a pity that our education system takes much longer, and people get higher education when they pass their peak. That maybe that's my intuition. So when you come from a humble family background, it's a small business, the compulsion to succeed is very high. So you really put in your best. And sometimes I worry about my children because they don't have as much compulsion to succeed, as much pressure to say, okay, I just can't fail or underperform or whatever. And my elder brother was also CA rank holder. So that was also inspiration and motivation that yes, this is something which can be done. And I put in my best. I really never targeted a particular rank or I don't know. I mean, when you're doing CA for the first time, at least in inter, what you want to do is that you want to clear both the attempts, so that you don't have to do those massive textbooks. I think we had with those Singhania's income tax, small font, thick book. So you don't want to have them again on your head. But once I got a rank in CA Inter, obviously I got more confident. But I thought, okay, if I get a good rank, that's good enough. But I happened to get another second rank again, and obviously the first rank was different in both the exams. But I just worked, and I didn't work for a rank. My first objective is that you should clear both the groups at one go. And if you get a rank, that's a bonus.
Right, absolutely. And then after your CA, you took a decision of getting into an MBA college. And in one of your interviews, you mentioned because you cleared it at a very young age, you thought instead of starting to work immediately, I'll go for an MBA and then I'll start working. And then you shifted to HUL for 5 years of your life. So your experience at IIM Ahmedabad, what do you think that experience of MBA has added value to your life, which is definitely helping you in your day-to-day life today?
So tremendous value actually. So CA and MBA in a way complement each other. CA is more academic, more theory, and people say that you mug up, but you learn lots of things which are about law, income tax, accounting, finance, and everything. But MBA is more, because you work in a group and you live on campus, and that makes your interpersonal much better, much sharper. Many of us might have innate abilities, but they don't get sharpened, they don't get polished, they don't get honed over a period of time. And I think communication, working with team, and also networking, because they're all bright students from different fields. So what happens when you're doing CA, you get one stream or one class of people, which is mostly with commerce background. When you land into an MBA college, there are people from engineering background, most of them, but also from arts, different geographical areas, different cities, different cultural background. So it's a wonderful experience to learn and work with them. And of course, most of, like our IIM Ahmedabad group is a lot more active than say, my CA friends that way. So socially and network wise, they are always, you're in touch and they can, I think it's a great experience. There's no doubt about it that those 2 years, or maybe a little less than 2 years, but they shape your personality, they shape your way of looking at not only things, the way problems are solved, and you work in a team. I think that was a great learning.
But then having said this, there's also a counterpoint here that 2 years of your time is gone into an MBA, and it's just if the major advantage is networking, there's a huge opportunity cost, which is your time, which is gone. So how do you compute this opportunity cost of time of 2 years as compared to the networking advantage? Because in today's world, for networking, you can reach out to anyone on LinkedIn.
So networking I don't think networking is a big part of it, but networking is the kind of networking that you have when you live with somebody for 2 years is very different from LinkedIn or whatever, okay?
Correct.
But networking as an advantage or as a benefit is a small part of it. But as I said, you learn different subjects. There are wonderful teachers and wonderful students around. I think it's worth every day. It's worth much more than 2 years. I can't really imagine. I would say that as an entrepreneur, probably, it would have been very difficult for me to achieve even 1/10 of what I am without an MBA or without CA also for that matter. So I think they complement, but MBA is worth every day of 2 years. If you get a good college and a good MBA institute, I would very strongly recommend, that is really worth the time.
Absolutely.
Many times, another thing that for me, because I did along with BCom, so I saved time. Many times people take a lot more time after their graduation, and then obviously they have to weigh the options. The CA in my times to now, I think there are a lot of things are changing. So, it's not just for the sake of networking that you go. Now, in a social media setup, even if you're a CA, you can be connected with a lot more CAs and other fraternity. But you have to have MBA experience for learning many other subjects. One, more importantly, to interact and learn from fellow students who come from different functions and different streams of life. They have a very different approach. So the diversity there is a great learning opportunity than anything else. Also, one more thing in MBA, the case study approach and not the exam approach is a very, very different approach to learn. Now, the IB education has come where students start doing this from early stage. And our CA education needs a lot more revamp of curriculum and approach actually. Then, because they're very bright students come to CA. And we're really unfortunate that their personality development is not as much as it could be, just because the way the curriculum is designed.
Absolutely. And then after your MBA, you went to HUL with your campus placements itself. So in your HUL journey itself, after that, you started your IIFl after working in HUL. So how difficult was this for you to take a shift from a high-paying job to an entrepreneurial journey and convincing yourself that you are taking a very gallant decision at the cost of very high risk?
No, it was a difficult decision. And when I joined HUL, I thought that coming from business family, I may work for a year and leave and start something else. But the company's culture and what you learn in HUL was so wonderful that I continued for 5 years, and it was really difficult even after 5 years to leave. Many times, people make fun of things that, oh, the most intelligent people sell soaps or whatever. But I think people have to have a broader view how the economy runs, then selling soap is as important. And there are different functions which are important in the economy, in the system, and for the society also to develop. But I think what you learn, the HUL's work culture is amazingly good. And also that, the emphasis on honesty, integrity, and hard work and humility, all those, culturally it's something that I've been learning from childhood, and it was a wonderful experience. So it was a hard decision. But what made me do this is that in 1990, so I joined HUL in 89. In 91, reform started. And I had a very strong background in finance. And HUL, all said and done, is a company which is driven more by marketing. Much later, people from finance also have become chairman, but at least at that point in time, there was a marketing, technology, and then finance, that would be the order in terms of importance, order of importance, or maybe my perception at that point in time. And I had a very strong background in finance, and the financial sector was opening up. So in 91, reform started. Foreign investors were allowed to come in. By 93, 94, we saw that we had only UTI mutual fund, and Morgan Stanley came. Things were opening up. So that is the time I thought that if I get into hardcore financial services, I'll do well with chartered accountancy, cost accountancy, and also MBA with a lot of finance focus. And my personal interest and aptitude for finance, so I want to get into financial services. That was a great opportunity.
Right, absolutely. And now talking about your IIFl journey as well, I was reading that it all started where you used to give your recommendations, stock recommendations and all, but brokers used to just copy it and give it to all the audience, and therefore you decided that you'll make it free online for everyone, and that's how the journey started. So then you pivoted into lending as well. So what do you think worked out really well for IIFl right from the scratch, because you were a first generation entrepreneur in your family?
So from Hindustan Lever I joined Motilal. And Motilal also was research, which was named as Inquire, was set up. And we worked very closely with Motilalji and Ramdev, because they were really deep into stock market. It was a great learning. So what happens that you have a theoretical academic knowledge is one. But there are a lot of practical experience, which in those days, the broker, because of their closeness to the market and their understanding of. So what happened that time, the market was the open ring. And from there you get to know interpersonal and the psychology of a jobber, trader. And then actually we set up research. Research was pretty successful in those days. Foreign investors were just coming in. And from there I started this. So it was a great learning and a great experience. The lot of pioneering work we did in research, because those days research was hardly existent. There were very few organizations that were really doing research. And so we originally, when we started IIFl, what I thought, I didn't want to become a broker. I thought that let's do research, which is easy because of a fee-based business, and there are 200 companies which are going to account for 95 or 99% of the market. And even if there are 200 brokers, they're going to work on those 200 companies. Better, I do research on 200 companies and sell it to 200 brokers. And over a period of time, so those 95 to 99 were bad years for the economy and market. Recessionary years, market was not going anywhere. Really difficult years. So we started selling our research to corporates, consulting firms, banks, just for a survival and growth, whatever we could do. Then we realized that there was demand for industry research, so we did that. Economy, so we did a lot of things. And then internet was new when I started in 1995. So Sameer Bhatia sold his company Hotmail to Microsoft in 98 or 99. That's the time people started understanding what internet is and can be. $100 million or 400 crore looked like a crazy money at that point in time. Today it will look like a pittance. But so from there I got interested in internet. And when we had one research report on IT sector, which was titled as Hope, Hype or Happening, was very successful, because IT sector did amazingly well between 98 and 2002. We were the early ones to identify that. So we sold good number of copies of that report at just 10,000 rupees in those days, but that got circulated even maybe 100 times more. That was really frustrating for us because in India you can't really enforce IPR or intellectual property. So I'm selling you one, and everybody has to have a soft copy, and you sell it to 100 people, and I can't do anything about it. So out of sheer frustration, with my key people, I said, okay, let's put everything free on the website rather than. And then we did that, and then we made a business model like that we put free, all research free. So which was burning the bridge from the one side, but as an entrepreneur, you do that sometimes, and we did that. And from there, we raised some capital, and the rest is history.
Right, absolutely. And then when did you decide to pivot into lending as well?
That's interesting, actually. So I was reasonably successful in retail, and the stock market turned around in 2003 bull run. We became profitable. We got listed. There's a time DSP Merrill Lynch had a DSP venture. They approached us. They bought some equity. So I knew the people from Hemendra Bhai and Amit Chandra, who's now Bain Capital. This thing. So they invested some amount in our company, and then Merrill wanted to do a joint venture for lending. So that is how we were ourselves. We did not know lending, and we were probably not so keen also, to be very honest. But Merrill basically they took us to their global offices, and we understood the lending business that they were doing. So they're supposed to be a joint venture. But then subprime crisis hit them, and they kind of backed out or they pulled out. And we had done a lot of work, hiring people, software, a lot of things. So we continued. And that is how we started our lending business. So we had got a good team from City Financial, Citibank and others. And we had done a lot of work on policy, research, software. So we just continued.
Got it. So since you mentioned that you got a good team and all, so next question is like quite similar to the team aspect. So how do you go about hiring the right set of people for any organization? The team, the employees are one of the most key assets for that organization. So how do you go about hiring, and what do you look before hiring any full-time employee?
So actually I realized early on that our business requires the raw material, machinery, plant, technology, know-how, everything is manpower. And you work with people who are similarly educated, similarly intelligent, or sometimes maybe more smarter. So then, then you make them partners. And so you have to be generous with equity sharing and really make them partners. So everybody works like a team. So everybody is like a partner or a founder, co-founder, co-promoter, whatever you call them. But they are all. So then we basically got the best talent in the industry by offering them equity. So what was happening is, that the best talent in the industry is working with, say, a large bank or an MNC. Then they may get a flow of income, but they never create wealth. Because the wealth, if you have equity, then the market basically discounts all your future earnings and gives you value. So what will happen is that that wealth creation is something which can be a big attraction if they can join a new entrepreneur or a first generation entrepreneur like me. So I think that is what we did. And we got the best talent first for our institutional equities, and then for wealth. And we set up these entities in different structures. So everybody will have a different approach. So because I'm a first generation entrepreneur and in a new age era, I have to have this approach. But I won't say that that's the best approach, that you offer generous equity and get people, because different organizations with, there are large institutions with a good brand name and a much bigger size. And I know some of wonderful entrepreneurs, very large, very successful private sector banks and a financial conglomerate. They have done this in a different way, because without equity also they attracted people with a very generous cash compensation and got people who work with them. So it's nothing which is sacrosanct.
Right, absolutely.
But if you are a first generation entrepreneur or a startup, this strategy may work. That you get like-minded people, as smart, as qualified, and make them partners. But if you inherited your father's business, this may not be the right approach.
So in that case, what would be the right approach?
Then, basically you may not like to dilute as much because you already have a team. So you'll strengthen that team and get, people who are professionals. The high quality people will be willing to work for you for a good salary, good bonus, and some ESOPs also. It's not a given. Right. But there are different approaches to life.
Correct, absolutely. And since you mentioned that, in your stint at HUL, you learned a lot from the company's culture. So asking about IIFl's culture itself, how is IIFL as a company's culture when it comes to employing people? So
we define our culture in 2 words, which becomes very simple for anybody to understand: absorb, follow, and also communicate down the line. So it's owner mindset. So you come here and you have to think like an owner.
Like owners work and workers own.
Yeah, so that is how we say the owners work and workers own. So, I am also an owner, but at the same time worker also. So everybody is either a co-employee or a co-owner, whatever you call it. So you can't work like, say, this is my department, that's not my this thing. Or you can't be bureaucratic, okay, I'll send a mail. Or I'll have a CYA approach, that doesn't work. So either, you say that, okay, this is my company. And that becomes easier. So it's very simple that, okay, you work here, then you work like an owner. You don't say, everybody draws salary or bonus or incentives or parting shop or whatever, but everybody feels the ownership.
Right. I think that's very, very kind of you as well, and having this kind of an attitude would really help the employee also to have that ownership attitude. So it's like he's the founder of the company and not an employee. That would be the mindset.
Right.
And just delving on the fintech aspect. Now I recently read a news that you also opened a joint venture with Open Bank, which became the 100th unicorn of India, and this is into neo banking itself. So asking about your views on this entire fintech landscape changing in the Indian economy. So do you think that these fintechs, like how can banks and traditional NBFCs leverage the expertise of these fintechs firstly, and secondly, can these fintechs replace these banks and NBFCs in the future? What's your view?
So let me come with the later part of your question first. I don't think they'll replace banks and NBFCs, but they'll complement. They'll carve out their own niche and their own space in the entire system, and they'll coexist because everybody has certain strengths and certain capabilities. So in lending business, you require capital because on the leverage on capital. So obviously the large institutions and banks have large capital. So fintechs, because there are lots of fintechs, it's a law of natural selection that all of them will not survive. I mean, it's not being negative about it, but that's how the process works. And investors also understand that.
Yeah.
But I think the model will be a lot of partnership, alliances, working together. So in the new economy and a digital world, I think what has happened is that the lines have blurred between competitor, collaborator and co-worker and alliances, so somebody, and this is, if you see the big techs also, like if you look at Amazon, you look at Google, you look at Apple, you look at so many of large Netflix, many of them, sometimes they compete, sometimes they collaborate, sometimes the product is available on this thing. So that's how the new world is emerging. And many banks and NBFCs will do a lot of investment in technology. They will have their own innovative products and technologies also. And there are many fintechs that will also do. But innovative or the creative by definition is something which one person cannot do everything. So our approach is that we would like to collaborate and plug in various things rather than do everything ourselves.
Got it.
Open has done wonderful work over the last 5 years to create a neobank. Difficult, it's a very tough job. Now they become a unicorn. So what we can do is that rather than reinventing the wheel, we get the technology. For them, rather than learning the lending business, which is very difficult, to my mind, underwriting skills are, the many fintechs come and say that we have developed a model in the lab and it works. Doesn't, unless you're seen through the cycles, you can't say that it works. So we have in financial services, we have more than 25 years of experience. So the lending and underwriting experience also we bring in, they bring in the technology and it becomes a great partnership.
Right, absolutely. And on these fintechs and valuations, you would be reading in a lot of news articles, their valuations are surging like anything. A lot of private equity investors, VC funds are pouring in tons of money in these startups. But now when they go and list in the stock markets, taking an example of Zomato itself or any other startup which got listed, they are at their 50% down, 70% down from their listing price. And Paytm, that story is altogether different, like Paytm Mall and all, which just happened yesterday. So basically, what's your view? These private startups, when they go into listing in the public markets, do you think these are sustainable in the long run for an investor to invest, like from a long-term perspective of 5 to 10 years?
So as I said that in the private startup and the venture economy, I think the rule of the game is few will survive and become much bigger, many will not survive. And valuations already started correcting. As the public markets have corrected, even the private investors they watch public market every day. So they become careful and savvy. So it's not something which is, but good business models will survive through the cycle and become much bigger. But there will be few of them.
Right.
But there can be a long tail and a trail of non-survivors also, but that's part of the game.
Got it. And now since the public markets have also corrected, today also I read the news that Sensex is down by 800,000 points and like it has been crashing in the last 1 week or so. The US markets are not performing well. How would you as a particular person advise a retail investor to allocate his portfolio in this point of time? whether you should go about investing or redeeming, or what should be the allocation strategy according to you?
So at all points in time, you should have certain allocation to equity, certain allocation to fixed income or liquid, and certain allocation to non these assets like real estate, gold. Now these allocations work on two things. One is what is your income, because somebody who is earning 50,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees or 5 lakh rupees or 50 lakh rupees is very different. And income flow and consistency, because somebody is running a business, might have a spurt, might have a somebody is in a job which is a lot more permanent and secure compared to somebody's job. So all these things have to be considered. So how consistent and sustainable your income is. And the second is what is your risk profile based on one, your aptitude and attitude, and two, your other background. Like suppose you are the only breadwinner in the family, is different. But you have inherited wealth and you can take risks, that's different. So your allocation of asset has to be there for everybody. And it can never be to 100%. Should not be. And I think, so if you're a equity investor in India, it's a good thing to stay invested. Small investors should not trade in options, should not trade in futures and options particularly, should not leverage, should not build a portfolio of direct equity which is too diverse. Direct equity is something if you really understand and have the capability to follow research and follow the stock. Otherwise, better to have an advisor and maybe build a mutual fund portfolio in direct code that might work better for you. And so I think don't panic if you have an investment which is core and not leverage. If you leverage, get out of it. Most small investors, 99%, if not more than that, will do well to avoid options and futures. Options and derivatives in particular. Then I may be a promoter and I have my own interest. But to be honest, it doesn't really help the customer. But many times customer enjoy. So sometimes you play a game, do a video game, or you do a casino because you enjoy. But over a long period of time, through the cycles, most retail investors don't make money in futures and options, unfortunately. So what happens in options is, somebody is a smart trader, can do thousands of trades in a day, through algo, non-algo, whatever. That's a different thing because he's a professional, he understands. But many small investors from small towns get lured into this. They start trading in nifty options because they think they can buy something at 20 rupees, 50 rupees. The 20 rupees can become 50 rupees very quickly. But more often than not, they get lured into the thing many times with beginner's luck in the first few trades. And ultimately, they come to grief because it becomes addiction. It distracts them from their normal work and family life. And their size, their scale, and their understanding is unlikely that the odds are against them for to make money. Options somehow, if you really ask me, then they should be only for a customer above particular net worth or above particular margin. I mean, this is not a populist statement, but that might basically clean out the market in the manner that people won't trade with. Somebody with 10,000 rupees trading in options, which probably might be happening today, is not a good thing.
Right, absolutely. Those are wonderful insights. Just like a couple of generic questions as well. How does your day in the life of an entrepreneur look like? So what would be your daily schedule and how do you manage your time so that we can also understand and imbibe?
Okay, it varies from time to time, but the morning probably I'll try and go for a walk at least 4 days in a week. And then I'll have breakfast or whatever and come to office. By the time I go back home, maybe have a cup of tea if I'm early, otherwise stay dinner. And the morning also, probably I'll read some newspapers. Evening also, I'll try and do something. I don't watch TV much, for whatever reasons. And on the weekends, basically, I'll spend time with family. Sometimes go for a movie play, or go out for a weekend. Take a few holidays and go out sometimes. So that's how it's very standard. And there's nothing extraordinary or exotic.
Got it. And if I want to become the next Mr. Nirmal Jain, what is that one piece of advice you would like to give it to me?
You can become much better and much bigger also. So first of all, you can have ambitions which are larger, one. Two, find out something where your strength is, domain depth is, and focus and hard work. Humility and honesty, these are the three things because other things are given. Other than these three things, I'll say that look for your calling, where you really enjoy and where your strengths are, natural strengths. Have patience. Entrepreneurship is not a short-term game. If you chase valuations in 6 months, 1 year, it's not going to work to my mind. But if you have 10-year horizon as an entrepreneur, it may work beautifully. And so have a long-term perspective, be focused, work hard, follow your calling, and you can be much more successful. All the best.
Right.
I mean, there are many people who are a lot more successful. There are many people who will be a lot more successful now also. So.
Correct. And last tricky question. So if you were in the shoes of Kushal Lodha and you were interviewing Mr. Nirmal Jain, what is that one question which you would like to ask him at the end of the interview? This is a tricky one.
No, I think what we asked is the same question, that what have you learned? Maybe I'll ask that, okay, it's the same thing, which is, what are your lessons of life that you would like to share with your children, kind of thing, is what you'd like to share with everybody also.
Got it. Lovely. So thanks for your time, sir. Just quickly, we have a couple of minutes rapid fire round, which I do it at the end of the interview. So again, the rules are very simple. You have to be as spontaneous as possible, and these are very simple generic questions. I've researched about your life itself. So if ever your autobiography is made, which actor would you like to play your role?
Younger Amitabh Bachchan.
Okay. If you had to start from zero today and you had 1 year to make $1 million, what would you do?
To make $1 million? Invest in stock market.
Okay, lovely. If you woke up as the following people tomorrow, what would you do? Elon Musk.
I'll focus on 2 businesses that I have, Tesla and SpaceX, and not get into many other ventures.
Okay. Warren Buffett.
I'll hand over to the successor and retire.
And Joe Biden.
Okay, this is a little difficult one. But I'll have a consistent policy for the world, and I'll not try to be, I'll try and end the war.
Got it.
By now the subtle politics which US has played, so I'll get out of that.
Got it. One investment that you regret the most?
Before Ketan Parekh, I think I had a stock like DSQ Software.
Okay. Got it. What have you learned from the following people? Motilal Oswal.
Motilal Oswal, focus on the core business and core strength, focus on core domain.
Ramdev Agrawal.
Research is the key to investment.
Got it. And your co-founder, R. Venkataraman.
Humility.
Got it. React in one word to the following. IIFL.
Financial services.
Cryptocurrencies.
Fade, passing fade.
Okay. Entrepreneurship.
Hard work and focus.
Travel.
Fun.
Your hobbies.
Travel and walking/running.
Got it. Select one thing out of the two. Stocks versus bonds.
Stocks.
Trading versus investing.
Investing.
Startups versus traditional businesses.
Startups.
Okay, this is a tough one. Lending versus wealth management.
Both actually.
Okay. And YouTube versus Instagram.
YouTube.
Okay. One thing you would like to go back in the past and change in your life.
My health and the focus on physical exercise at a younger age, and food, diet and exercise at a younger age.
Got it. This is a wonderful answer. One thing that no one knows about you.
One thing that no one knows about me.
Yeah.
Okay, I have also written quite a few poetries.
Oh, wow. We'd love to hear all of them. And last question, how would you define success?
Actually, okay, this is not my original answer, but success is when you have time for what you want to do.
Got it. Lovely. That's a wonderful answer.
Thank you.
So thanks a lot for your time, sir. It was amazing conversation talking to you.
Thank you so much.
And thanks a lot for
Okay,
your time.
all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. For your time.